Addis Ababa Education Bureau in collaboration with Addis Media Network. Today, we are going to see the topic under entitled, How We Express Our Preferences. All right, so under this topic, we are going to learn three things. That will be the objective of our lesson today. So the objectives are of three types, but they are interrelated. So the first objective is going to be, the first one will be learning expressions to express about our preferences. So expressions of preferences. And the second one will be how we ask other people about their preferences. So it will be asking others about their preferences. The third one is quite related to this one, how you are going to use conjunctions such as whereas, on the other hand, while, and but, while using these expressions in our daily conversations. Well, now we are going to see in detail. First, let's begin what we mean by expressing preferences. We would like to begin with what preferences are. Preferences are the expressions we use, what we like, what we prefer, or if there are two or more choices, which one we are going to prefer most. To know in detail, or to know better, we are going to add details of expressions that we are going to use in expressing our daily preferences. The third objective will be, in relation to the first two, we are going to see how we use conjunctions such as whereas, on the other hand, while, and but in expressing our preferences. To begin our today's topic, we are going to see just a couple of keywords. Maybe you know the words, but to align with the course or to make it similar to our daily topic, we are going to see some of the keywords today. So the keywords are, the first one will be preference. The second one, countryside versus city. The third keyword will be prefer, like, love. These are things you know. So let's begin with the first one. The word preference expresses what you like currently or in the future. Maybe you have a couple of choices, like it can be tea or coffee. It can be soft drink or water. So your preference towards this thing will be what you like the most between the two or among a couple of choices you have. Now, for example, whenever we talk about preferences, someone may ask you, what is your preference? Where do you like to live? Or what do you want to eat? People ask you all the time. For example, your friend might want to invite you either to watch movie or to play game. Now, that means he is asking for your preference. what do you prefer to do today? Watching movie or playing game? This is what preference is. The way you express back is how you express your preferences towards the person who asks you. Now, the second one is countryside versus city. In this topic, we are going to see one dialogue on your textbook that talks about somebody's preference of living places. Now, a friend may ask you, where do you like to live? Do you like to live in the city? Do you like to live in countryside? So to know these two things, first we have to see what countryside and city is. So to begin with, the word countryside expresses like towns, small towns, villages that are not as complex as, for example, Addis Ababa. So in countryside, we find a lot of farmlands. We find less complicated transportations, fewer houses. So that is by definition countryside, not a city center. On the other hand, city is a place where a very complex life exists. The transport is very complicated, life pace is very fast, infrastructure is wide. For example, if you see Addis Ababa, we have railways, we have road infrastructures, we have airports. So unlike this one, in rural areas or in a countryside, the opposite exists, a simple and not complicated roads, not complicated market systems. So this is the comparison you are going to get in our today's topic. So someone asks you, where do you like to live? Do you want to live in a countryside or in a city? Which one do you prefer? Do you prefer Addis Ababa, for example, and Arba Minch? Or let's make it, where do you like to live better? In Addis or in Bishoftu? Such things will express it. The third couple of words are expressions we use whenever we are talking about our preferences. So we can divide this into two. It has a positive and negative expressions. This is what we are going to see in detail in few minutes. But first, let's identify some of them. Now, whenever someone asks you about your preferences, you can tell them, I prefer tea, or I prefer tea to coffee. That's the positive one. And you can also say that, I like football. I like football better than playing games. Or you can say, I love water, or I love water better than I like soft drinks. These expressions have their own negatives or an equivalent different version of them. For example, you can simply say, I like whenever you express something. So you can take it in the negative way, or for something you don't prefer, so you can say, I don't like. You can say, I don't love. If you take it very strongly, you can say, I hate. So whenever you say hate, that means something you don't like, something you can't stand, something you don't want to taste if it's something food or drink, or something you don't want to see if it's something leisurely activity or games. Now, with this in mind, we are going to proceed to our main topics. All right. Now let's proceed to our today's main topic. The topic we can see some different perspectives or some different expressions. But first, we are going to see different expressions or how to ask preferences. This is the first thing we see. And the second one will be how to express preferences. Our preferences. Good. Now we are going to see a couple of phrases, expressions. First, we are going to see how we are going to ask people about their preferences. Just let's see 3 different questions as an examples. The first one, you can simply ask, do you like something? It can be, do you like coffee? Do you like football? Do you like playing games? anything. The second one, if you have two preferences to give, which one do you prefer? Simply you can say coffee or tea. This is when you give people two different kinds of choices. For example, if you are going to serve them coffee or tea, you can simply ask for their preferences. Hello Binyam, or hello Muhammad, or hello Sarah, you can say. Then you can ask them, which one do you prefer, coffee or tea? And if you take it further, you can also ask them the things they love the most. For example, how about movies? Now, you ask them the question. They answer how they prefer the thing you offer them. So these are among the expressions you are going to use whenever you are asking for pupils' preferences. Now, the pupil will have their own preferences in the following manner. For example, you can simply say, I like, or I love something. So, for the same question, you can ask, which one do you prefer, coffee or tea? The answer can be, I like coffee. I like coffee better. I love coffee. That's your expression. You can also say, I prefer coffee, and you can add more. I prefer coffee to tea, for example. That means you love coffee better than tea. That's how you express. And sometimes you can also say that I would rather take, or I would rather have coffee. That's the expression. And one more, you can also say that I love, or the extreme opposite will be I hate something. For example, if someone is inviting you to play video games, but sadly you are not interested in it, so you can simply say, how about video game? If you love, if that's your best preference, you can say, whoa, I love video games. Let's play video games. But in the opposite, if you don't like video games, the opposite will be, oh no, I hate video games. I can't stand video games. That's also an expression of your preferences. Now, with this in your mind, we can take it further to learn about more and more about expressions. On your book, on page 3, you can get a dialogue between two people. So Ato Ali is going to talk to one of his friends, whether he likes to live in the city or in the rural places. Now let me give you a simple example. Think about two people, Ato Ali and Ato Hassan. Now, with this example, you are going to do demonstrations later, so it will serve you as an example. The first exercise we do will be practical exercise. We work in group. But to begin with that, now let's say two people are talking. Ato Ali says, you always open a dialogue with hello. Do you prefer living in a small town or a city? Now you can ask yourself the same question. Now, do you prefer living in a town or city? This is one question. You can state different types of questions using the same flow. You can say, do you prefer town to city? Do you like towns? Which one do you like, town or city? So these questions have the same implication, but the answer will be of different type, at least two types. Now, if Ato Hassan likes living in a city, he can simply say, I prefer living in a city. Now look at what's in the bracket. You can simply say, I prefer city, or I prefer living in a city. The same person can answer in different way. He can say, I would rather live in a small town. This is his expression. And again, the same person can say, for example, if he hates, if he doesn't like, if he can't stand living in one place, he can express his not liking of that thing like this. For example, he can say, now these are the negative ones we see. I don't like living in a city. Or he can say even more extremely like, I hate cities. Now, this is the conversation opening between the two people. But sometimes if you get one answer, you can ask more. That more question is the why question. Good. Now, what if somebody asks you back, why? Now, the why questions for two things given can be answered using longer sentence. For that long sentence, the second objective, if you remember, is learning about conjunctions. Now we are going to compare our preferences using different conjunctions. Before we go out of this example, let's compare our preferences. For this, we are going to use conjunctions we mentioned earlier, like whereas. On the other hand, and but, among others. Now, if you take this in mind, now we can take it more further. Let's make it very simple. I will revise this thing to make it easy for you. Now, first, we were listening to Ato Ali and Ato Hassan. Ato Ali asked Ato Hassan if he prefers living in a town or in a city. Now, Ato Hassan said, I prefer living in a city. If we take it further, somebody can ask you, why do you like coffee? Or why do you like tea? Now you have two options. With this, we can see the use of these conjunctions in a simple way. You can simply say, for example, I like living in a city. Now, Mr. A says this. Mr. B can ask why. Mr. A can give longer sentence. Now, this is how you are going to present in few minutes. So, let's make it very easy and very clear for you. Now, if you say, I like living in a city, and if somebody asks you back why, you have to say something about the city and the small towns or the countryside, just like the example I'm giving you, because this is what you are going to do next. So you can say, city has a lot of choices, but, or, whereas, or, on the other hand, towns are, like let's say clean or less polluted. Now, don't take it very, very far away from my topic, because all I want you to know is the use of these things in comparing your preferences. Now I will give you some more examples to make it easy. Now you can say, why do you like cities better? You can say, cities are great to live in, however, but, whereas, towns gives you humble choices like clean air, clean rivers, if you enjoy that type of things, of course, but the rivers also will be the same. Now, with this in mind, students, we are going to have minor classwork The classwork involves you need to group into two, just with the girl or the boy sitting next to you. So after you have grouped into two, we are going to give you, I will be giving you the initial questions. You ask your friend answers. And you do it the same way in the other way around. All right, students, like we talked earlier, now we are going to have our first exercise. It's just simple role-playing exercise that you all are going to enjoy. Now for the role-playing exercise, we need you to get in pair. So the first exercise will be role-playing. Now remember the example I gave you, but this time you are going to work with your friends in group. The group involves only two, so you are going to work in pair. Now, being with your friends, one will ask the other about their preferences. Our main topic of preferences time will be life in the city or life in the urban areas or countryside or villages. You can express it the way you like. Now I will give you the initial question. So the initial question will be, just one of you will take a role to play as student A. As a student A, you can ask the main question about city versus countryside in the following ways. Let's say you are going to be the first one to ask. So this is how you ask. How do you like living in a city? This is one question. The second question, the same to this one. Another options you can take. Do you prefer city to? Do you prefer city to, let's say, urban areas or countryside? This is another way of asking that person. Or the third one, very simple. Which one do you like more? City or village? So this type of questions will help you ask your friends whether they like living in a city or they prefer living in a village or in rural areas. Now with this in mind, you can also add different types of questions, how you want your friends to tell you their preferences. Hey, do you like city? This is a simple one you are going to talk. When you take it more further, which one do you like more, city or countryside? If you take it more, do you like countryside? Now, you can get different answers for such kinds of questions. Now, student B, who is going to respond to your questions, might say in different ways. For example, he can say, I love living in a city. I like living in a village. I prefer city to village. He can also say in the negative ways, I don't like cities, or I would rather live in a city. He can also say, I hate. This is very strong. This means he doesn't like and he can't stand it. These are the expressions used. Now, if you get the example, you are going to take role playing. I will give you a couple of minutes, just 2 minutes to rehearse. So you can come here and demonstrate or show to your friends like what you are going to say. Now, if you are not interested in cities versus countryside, you can change it. For example, you can invite them games. Do you like video game or playing games? Do you like walking around or biking? Do you like me to give you tea or coffee? Such things. All I want you is how you are going to use these expressions. Now back to you. All right, students. Now let's sum up what we have learned today. It was very interesting that we have discussed different forms of expressing our preferences. We have also seen the positive and negative ways of expressing our positive preferences and negative preferences. For this, we have seen a couple of examples, if you remember. Positively, you can say, I love, I like, I prefer, I would rather take, and others. And negatively, you can also say, I don't like, I don't prefer, I hate. That's very strong, but you can't use it. So these are the expressions we have seen. In connection with this, we have seen different types of conjunctions we use when we are expressing our preferences. For example, we have seen while, we have seen whereas, and others. We used this one to compare our preferences. For example, if you say, I like living in the city, and if someone asks you back why, you can use this one and express your preferences like this. City gives me a lot of opportunities, whereas in the small towns or in countryside, I enjoy the fresh air. These were the uses of expressions. So for our next class, I want you to rehearse more dialogues. So you working group, prepare a dialogue. This will be your homework for the next topic. Before we proceed to the next topic, you are going to do one homework. In a group of 3, you form 3 groups. So one student ask and answer about your preferences. It can be food, it can be games, it can be living places, sports, and others. So you are going to develop a dialogue, rehearse it, and you'll present to the class when we meet next time. All right, students, this is all we get for today. I hope you have learned a lot, how you express your preferences, how you answer to that. Next time we meet with another new topic. Until then, goodbye.